welcome all of you and thank you for coming tonight. And our Vice President, Mandy, will introduce our speaker for us.
Hey everybody, tonight we have the pleasure of having Jennifer Ward here with us, and she is the Student Service Program Coordinator for the MUSC College of Dental Medicine. So,
thank you. Hello everyone. I know that's really kind of a long title and it sounds goofy, but when you work for the state, there's like just certain titles that you can fall into, so it was like that, or admin specialist, I think is your choice. So basically what I do is I help students in the admission process. Kind of once you get to dental school, you know, kind of see them passing, but I'm more on the, you know, coming in part of it. So I go to all the schools in the state, talk to students about submitting their application, answer any questions you have, kind of go over what the requirements are, as far as what the basics are, and then also give you an idea of what the averages are, you know, for the current class and where things are trending. So I'll kind of go over, I have, you know, pretty simple PowerPoint, so along the way if you have any questions, you know, stop me, you know, feel free to ask anything that comes up, all right? So here's a pretty picture of our old school. I mean, this is actually the front. We just moved into new clinics, and you'll see the new building in a minute. But all the lecture classrooms and stuff are still located in the same building. It's just the clinics have moved to the new one. So, all right, the dental school was started in 1967. If you're from South Carolina and interested in dentistry, you probably know that we are the only dental school in the state of South Carolina. It's a very competitive program, but preference is given to in-state residents. With that said, in the in the last 12 months, the budget cuts that have come down, we have admitted some more out-of-state students this past year, and I think that it's going to kind of keep going that way. Not to where it would be, you know, 50-50 split. It's still, this past year we had 58 students, 49 were in-state, and 7 were out-of-state. So in the past, it was like we had 53 in-state and 2 out-of-state. So it hasn't changed that much. The out-of-state tuition jumped quite a bit. So it used to be not that big of a difference for tuition purposes. Now it is a greater difference. But we rely on less than 10% of our funding comes from the state. So, you know, the Board of Trustees is feeling that not as much pressure to only accept in-state students anymore because of that. So that's kind of the thinking behind it. I've been hearing rumors that students are like, oh, MUSC is going to like 50-50 and it's all because of money, and it's not the case. I mean, we are taking more out of state, but it's still primarily in state. Okay, entrance requirements. One of the first things that you'll need to do is take the DAT, the Dental Admissions Test. How many in here have taken it already? Oh, there's just a couple of them. It's hard, right? You think? Did you study for it a lot? The perceptual part, or even the academic? There's basically 2 parts to the DAT. The academic portion, and you'll get a grand score for your academic, and then the perceptual. Perceptual is basically how you would view 3D images on a computer screen. And what that shows is your ability, you know, if you were looking at an x-ray of a tooth, to be able to say exactly where that is in the person's mouth. Okay, so basically that's what it measures. I've been told, I've never taken the DAT, I've been told that the more you practice that, the better that you get, you know, the better your score would be. So that's one component of the test that, you know, if you're not real comfortable, just keep doing the practice tests and go through them, and you should be able to increase it. We did have a student last year who scored a perfect 30 on the perceptual, and he said he didn't really even study. He just kind of has that type of brain that sees things, you know, in that mode. So it's that was the first 30 we'd ever seen. It was pretty impressive. You need a minimum of 3 years. So basically, you have to be at least a junior standing to apply. With that said, I mean, you have to have your bachelor's by the time you start. So, but you can start your application process, you know, kind of, if you want to make the jump directly from your senior year to dental school, you know, you're going to start at the summer between your junior and senior year. So, preferences given, you know, if you have or will already have your bachelor's. But again, it's not a knock if you started early or if you take 2 years off afterwards. It really, that doesn't make much of a difference. And then your references. We require a minimum of 3. We say that, you know, they like to see probably 2 from science professors, 1 from a dentist that you shadowed, and then if you wanted, you know, another professor. I would say, you know, shoot for having about 4 references, because you never know if one kind of gets lost or, you know, professor gets hidden under a stack of papers, and you don't want it to hold up your whole application. So it probably wouldn't hurt to get 4. You don't need, you know, having 12 isn't going to make that much of a difference versus 4. And another note on the letters, make sure that it's from professors who really know you, because the letters are read, and there's more times than I think should be, where a professor will say, you know, I had Susie in intro to biology, and you know, it was a course of 100 people, and you know, she got an A, but they haven't seen her since then. So they can't really speak about your work ethic or your character if it's in one of these, you know, large classes and they haven't had much experience with you. So trying to get somebody who actually does know you, and just because your neighbors or your dad went to college with a state senator doesn't mean, I mean, that letter doesn't make any difference versus having, you know, I mean, I think sometimes students are like, a state senator will write a 1 paragraph that says, you know, Johnny should go to dental school. But if this person doesn't really know you, it comes across in the letter. So just make sure that it's people that you know can write your letter for you. Any questions on that? Any requirements or anything? Okay, your prereqs. We usually don't have any problems with Clemson students not having their prereqs in order, but pretty basic, 8 hours of organic, 8 hours of general, 8 hours of biology or zoology, although I think biology would help you once you get there. 8 hours of physics, and then your basics, 6 hours of English, math, and then 8 hours of science. And the sciences, if you have, you know, microbiology, cell biology, anatomy and physiology, all those courses are going to help you once you get to dental school. So even though, you know, there's nothing wrong with taking a science course that's completely unrelated to the, you know, biomedical sciences, you know, it wouldn't hurt to think about what's going to help me, you know, lay the groundwork for the courses that I'm going to take once I get to dental school.
Do y'all accept AP scores for like the English and math portion? So do you
basically, if Clemson gives you credit for it, then we'll accept it. Okay. So, any other questions on requirements? Okay, your timeline. The access application opens up the 1st of June. It's a very lengthy application. Yeah, who in here has started or completed it? Completed? Started? Started. Completed? How long did it take you total? How many hours do you think you spent on it? Like 10, 15, 20? Yeah. That's, I hear between 10 and 20. So plan for that. Don't think that you're going to sit down on a Saturday afternoon and, you know, get it in. I mean, there's so many parts to it. It comes to us, and it's usually, depending on how many letters you have, 14, 16, 18 pages long. And so it asks you, I mean, there's a spot to talk about every possible thing that you've done in college, high school, volunteer work, you know, and make sure that you take the time to fill out all of those things that you've done, because it makes a difference when, you know, in front of the committee and they're reading it and they can see, wow, this person really spent a lot of time, you know, in church or, you know, helping kids in softball or whatever it is. I mean, that's the time to really brag about, you know, what a great person you are. So if it's not going to be in there, then, you know, they may not know. So kind time, you save it, go back to it, recheck it. Your personal statement is not something to be taken lightly. I mean, that's, every word of it's read. You know, have a couple different people read it, proofread it. Make sure, you know, have somebody who doesn't really know you read it and get their impression of it. You know, am I sounding, you know, like I have a sincere interest in dentistry, or am I sounding like I want to drive a nice car and have Friday afternoon off? You know, because you want to make sure that the message you're trying to convey is appropriate for, you know, who you are. Okay? Any questions on that part? No? So the supplemental opens up the MUSC part in early July. That's basically like a 3-page demographic. You know, that is one that you can sit down and do in like an hour or less. So, but it is a requirement, so don't, you know, forget about it. The interviews start in late September. We actually started last Friday. We had our first interview session, and it runs through February. We interview 12 students. It's kind of every other Friday, basically, from September until the 1st of February. It comes out to be about 10 interview dates, so that's 120 students that are interviewed. So if you make it to the interview stage, you know, you've eliminated a large part of the pool already. So once you get to that point, I mean, it's almost a 50-50 chance of you kind of getting in that year. So that you know, you need to be proud of yourself, you know, just for getting to that portion of it. It is good to get your application in early. As I said, we've already had one date, so you think about those students who came last week. I mean, they were given an interview, and those 12 were chosen out of the completed applications. So I don't know what the number was, but it's drastically less, you know, in September than it is in January for the number of completed applications. So the pool, as time goes on, the pool just grows. You know, the students that you're competing with to get a slot and an interview. So it does, in that respect, it makes a difference to get in as early as you can. The notifications are sent out. They start going out in early December. It's kind of an agreement. It's not, you know, written in stone or anything. It's just an agreement among dental schools that they will not, nobody will send out acceptances before December 1st. So after December 1st, we usually send out between 20 and 25 letters, offer letters. So that's, you know, about a third of the class that goes out in early December. Now, if you interview in September and you know, it's December 10th and you haven't gotten anything, you know, don't freak out and think, oh, I'm not getting in, because then it's just kind of rolling from then on. And the letters will go out up until March usually. So usually by March the class is pretty well set. But you know, don't worry. I mean, you would get, if you interview, you'll get either an acceptance or a denial. But the denials don't go out until the end, basically. So if you don't hear anything right away, don't worry. All right, and then classes begin. It's always the first Monday in June. So if you think, well, when I graduate, I think I want to go tour Europe for 3 months, then you should probably wait a year to apply, because you can't defer your acceptance. And the only start date is the first Monday in June. That's it. So, you know, and a lot of students take at least a year off in between, you know, and it's not looked down upon whatsoever or anything like that. So just kind of make sure, you know, timing-wise, because if you get accepted and then you come back and say, well, I want to go to Europe, so, you know, they're going to say, well, you have to apply all over again and interview all over again. And then when you're going back, then the committee, they may, I mean, I doubt it, but they could say, well, is this student really serious? Because they wanted to go on this big vacation instead of starting dental school, and we already offered them a spot. Are they serious about this? Do we want to give them or offer them another slot when a student who may be more serious about it, you know, should be here? So just kind of keep that in mind when you are getting ready to plan your life. Yes, ma'am.
Does the AED SAS application, can you start working on it before June 1st?
No. It opens up in June 1st, right? Yeah. That's when they...
And then it takes a long time for you to finish it.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you